Any cutting of green tape, any devolvement of power to states and territory governments would be a disaster.
That's the view of the Environmental Defenders Office, or EDO. It provides an advocacy and advice service for people with environmental problems, like contamination. Its funding has been cut, and it will shut its doors next year if more support isn't found.
You'll lose the environmental defenders. The public will lose the only place that they can go to for highly specialised public interest environmental law matters. If the environment had been damaged, or if there'd been a community who had been damaged or affected in any way, then we would definitely be a port of call. If an inquiry happens into the coppers site or into contaminated sites, then the EDO could definitely play a role.
Would you like to see an inquiry into contaminated sites more broadly in the ACT?
I think that an inquiry could be quite productive, not just in relation to the coppers site, but in relation to contaminated sites, as well as the management system that sits behind contaminated sites, because I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding, good or bad, about how contaminated sites are managed.
Much of the focus of that environmental concern of late has been on the industrial estate of Hume and the coppers site. But few people in Canberra would know of the toxic legacy that's right under their feet. In the 1970s, thousands of litres of fuel leached into the groundwater and soil near this site in the city, just near the corner of Mort and Bundas Street. To this day, the massive underground plume of fuel still remains right here. And this story has a tragic element. Back then, a plumber working in the basement of the then Centre Cinema was killed in a flash fire caused by fumes. Still to this day, workers operating underground here are conscious of the risk that remains. Is there a risk of authorities like the EPA handling such issues in-house and not being publicly accountable?
Yeah, I think that there's always a risk involved in any organisation. If there's no public accountability, if there's no transparency, if there's no independence, I think there's always going to be a risk.